Her daughter-in-law handed her a black trash bag for Christmas. Carla Thomas, retired widow and once silent co-signer, didn't flinch. By New Year's, the joint account was frozen. The will, rewritten. Evan, her only son, stayed quiet, so she made noise, with paperwork. Monica called it petty. The court called it legal. Wait, before we go any further, I gotta ask, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. The scent of cinnamon and nutmeg clung to Carla's coat as she stepped onto the porch, arms full of hand-labeled tins, peppermint bark, pecan tassies, her late husband's favorite molasses crinkles. The laughter inside had that polished, wine-soft edge she'd learned to approach like a heat lamp, warm from a distance, scalding up close. She knocked once, then twice. The door opened. Monica stood there, smiling like a magazine ad. Lipstick sharp, eyes cooler than the frost on the wreath behind her. "Finally," she said, "we were starting dinner." No Merry Christmas. Not even a "Hi, Carla." Carla stepped in without comment, brushing snow off her scarf. The house smelled like truffle oil and something overly citrusy. A faux tree glittered in the corner, white branches, gold ornaments, not a speck of red or green. It was beautiful. Cold, like a showroom. "Desserts," Carla murmured, placing the tins on the sideboard. "Still warm." Monica's smile didn't move. She turned toward the table where Evan sat, glass of red in hand, nodding along as Monica's brother bragged about crypto. Then Monica did it. She reached behind a chair and plucked up a black trash bag, crinkled, half deflated, and dropped it onto Carla's lap. "Merry Christmas," she said with mock cheer. "It's what you always need, non-perishables." Carla blinked. Inside the bag, 3 dented cans of green beans, an expired box of stuffing, and a half-used roll of aluminum foil. One can had a Merry and Bright sticker haphazardly slapped on it. Across the table, someone chuckled. Monica's sister snorted into her wine. Evan glanced over, then looked away. Carla's fingers tightened on the bag. She forced a breath through her nose and nodded once, gently setting the bag on the floor beside her. "Well," she said, her voice even, "waste not." She ate in silence. Fork, passing from plate to mouth mechanically like her muscles were on some backup system. The honey-glazed ham was dry, the green beans too garlicky. No one asked how she was. No one noticed her hand shake just once, when Evan passed her the rolls like she were someone else's distant relative. The laughter rose around her like wallpaper, loud and meaningless. She smiled. She had learned that smile decades ago, at funerals, at doctors' offices, in front of creditors during her husband's leaner years. It wasn't joy. It was armor. Later, as dessert was served, store-bought tiramisu unevenly sliced, Carla excused herself to the guest bedroom Evan used to sleep in as a boy. The Rocket League posters were gone, replaced with minimalist prints and a pale beige throw that felt like no one had ever really touched it. She sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out her phone, and opened the banking app. The screen blinked to life. One joint account, hers and Evan's. It had been practical once, back when she'd helped him and Monica with their first down payment. It was meant to be transitional, but the transition had never ended. The withdrawals kept happening, some small, some extravagant, spa visits, brunches, a wine subscription. She'd said nothing, until now. Her thumb hovered over the button labeled Freeze Account. The cursor blinked, her reflection ghosted back at her through the phone screen, and then she heard it, her husband's voice, so clear it stopped her breath. "Don't let anyone use your kindness to rewrite your worth." She pressed the button. Account frozen. A quiet chime confirmed it. Carla stood slowly, tucked the phone back into her purse, and returned to the table. "More dessert?" Monica chirped. Carla smiled. "No, thank you, I'm full." Full of silence, of history, of clarity, but most of all, full of resolve. The next day, the text came in at 9:47 a.m., 3 dots of rage ballooning on Carla's screen before the full message spilled out. "Why is the account frozen?" "My card got declined at brunch." In front of everyone. Are you serious right now? Carla didn't reply. She was already dressed, gray slacks, navy sweater, hair neatly pinned back, and walking into the credit union with the steady grace of someone who'd outlived many storms. The chill air inside bit against her cheeks, and the scent of pine cleaner lingered under the faint aroma of burnt coffee from the staff break room. "Morning, Ms. Thomas," said Linda, the teller who'd known her since the early 90s. "You here for a withdrawal?" "Something a little more surgical," Carla said with a soft smile. "I need a printed record of all transactions on this joint account, from the last 2 years." Linda blinked, gave a small nod. "I'll get Mr. Hodge for you." She sat across from Derek Hodge, a patient man with a warm smile and the tired eyes of someone who dealt with overdrafts more than celebrations. "I just want to see where it all went," Carla said plainly. He printed page after page, the printer hissing like a warning. Carla flipped through slowly, red pen in hand. The first charge was expected: groceries. But then came the others. $247.89, Bloomhouse Home Interiors $634.10, Spa Lumine, weekend package $1,300, Luxe handbags online, gift wrapped and more, candles, brunches, wine clubs, designer candles with price tags that would make Carla's late husband flinch, all under the same name on receipts, Monica Thomas. Derek cleared his throat. "Just so you're aware, legally, as 50% owner, you have the right to freeze, reclaim, and transfer any portion of the funds that remain. No one can contest that unless you authorize them." Carla nodded once, slowly. "And how soon can I open a new account?" He smiled gently. "Today." By noon, Carla had a private checking and savings account under her name only. She transferred her half, plus the amount she'd originally deposited when the joint fund was opened. "I'd like a card issued immediately," she said. Derek passed it to her, embossed and clean. No fingerprints but her own. As she walked back out into the brisk December air, her phone buzzed again. "You're seriously embarrassing me. I had to cover the bill. In front of Caitlin and everyone. You couldn't just ask me if something was wrong?" Carla stared at the screen. Her fingers didn't tremble this time. "What's happening with the account?" "I'm humiliated." She read the message 3 times, then finally typed back, pausing only once. "Talk to your husband. Or your conscience." She hit send. At home, she made tea. Not chamomile or peppermint, but black tea, strong and hot, the kind her husband used to sip while paying bills on their oak kitchen table. Carla sat by the window with the folder of bank records spread across her lap. She didn't cry. She didn't rant. She underlined. She highlighted. She bookmarked every charge that hadn't been hers. She reached for her leather planner, flipped to January, and circled a date. Attorney meeting. Then, with one last glance at the message thread still open on her phone, she switched the screen off. The reflection that stared back at her in the glass was clear-eyed and steel-spined. Elsewhere, in a boutique restaurant downtown, Monica sat at a brunch table, half-eaten eggs Benedict in front of her, the scent of truffle oil clinging to her embarrassment. She checked her phone again, jaw tightening at Carla's response. "What's wrong?" Caitlin asked, sipping her mimosa. Monica forced a laugh, bitter at the edges. "Just my mother-in-law being dramatic." But this time, her voice cracked. Carla hadn't opened the estate binder in almost 4 years. It sat untouched on the top shelf of her bedroom closet, beneath an old Afghan and a layer of quiet dread. Dust coated the edges like warning tape, but this morning something sharper than grief moved her hand. She placed the binder on the kitchen table, steam rising from her tea as if the house itself was holding its breath. The scent of blackcurrant and burnt toast hung in the air. Monica had left the toaster oven filthy last week. Carla hadn't said a word. She was saving her words now, for the right battlefield. The binder creaked open. Plastic sheet protectors crinkled as she flipped past power of attorney forms, living wills, account info. The documents were outdated, still listing Evan as secondary executor, still listing Monica as involved family member. But tucked inside the front cover, paper yellowing at the edges, was something she hadn't expected. A note. In her husband's distinct slant, black ink slightly faded. Carla, if you're reading this, it means something's shifted. Don't let them make you a guest in your own legacy. Kindness doesn't mean surrender. Protect what we built. M. She didn't cry. Her heart didn't even race. Instead, a silence fell over her that was deeper than grief, heavier than shock. A silence made of resolve. By afternoon, she was on the phone with her lawyer. Janine, it's time. I want to restructure the trust. All of it. There was a pause, then a quiet hum of understanding. I thought I might hear from you, Janine said. Let's schedule a full review. And Carla, bring everything, especially the notes. We'll thread the needle legally. Carla's niece, Holly, arrived that evening with Thai takeout and a laptop bag. Whatever it takes, Holly said between bites of pad CU. Just say the word. Carla pushed the binder toward her. Let's start with the will. As Holly flipped through the pages, she frowned. Still got Evan down as primary beneficiary? He used to deserve that. Carla's voice didn't rise before he went quiet in the face of cruelty. That night, Holly showed her something else. Monica's social media, screenshots filled with curated photos, soft filters, and not-so-soft captions. Some people use their age as an excuse for cruelty. Boundaries are not abuse. When toxic elders try to control from the grave, oh well, plot twist. Holiday drama. She snapped. Carla leaned closer, jaw tightening. She posted these today? She asked. An hour ago, Holly said. She's got over 3,000 followers, thinks she's an influencer now. Carla didn't curse. She didn't slam anything. She simply reached for Holly's phone and began to screenshot each post, saving them into an album titled Exhibits. She wants to play in public, Carla murmured, then public it shall be. At 9:16 p.m., Carla's phone buzzed with a new message. Evan, hey, wanted to give you a heads up. We're inviting Monica's parents to stay with us for a while. They'll be using the guest suite, so you may need to shift to the smaller room upstairs. It's just temporary. Thanks for understanding. Carla stared at the screen, unmoving. The silence in her kitchen now had teeth. She placed the phone on the counter, walked to the hallway closet, and pulled out an old suitcase, one with her name stitched into the handle in gold thread. Then she walked to her room and began to fold her favorite scarves, one by one, into it. She didn't reply. Not yet. But her hands moved with purpose, and her plan was already in motion. Carla stood in the doorway of the guest suite that used to be hers, her fingers curled around the doorframe as she listened to Monica's voice carry down the hallway. And they'll need closet space, obviously. We'll move some of your boxes to the garage. Oh, and Evan said your sewing machine can go in the attic. She didn't answer. Just smiled that quiet, hard smile she'd mastered decades ago, back when women were praised for swallowing disappointment whole and calling it grace. Later that evening, Carla nodded when Evan asked if she'd be okay with the shift. Of course, she said softly. It's your home too, after all. He looked relieved, but he didn't see the light leave her eyes when he said it. By sunrise, Carla had already booked a furnished short-term rental across town, small, clean, near the water. 1 bedroom, lots of natural light. She scheduled the movers online while sipping her morning coffee, the same way she once ordered curtains for Evan's first nursery. The difference now was that no one was asking her what she needed. She opened the closet and began packing quietly. Scarves, photo albums, jewelry, just the pieces that still held meaning. The rest she would leave behind like old wallpaper. She removed her mother's sapphire ring from its velvet case and slipped it into a padded pouch. That one she'd wear on the plane if she had to. 2 days later, she came back from errands and found Monica in her bedroom, the jewelry box open like an invitation no one had sent. "Oh," Monica exclaimed too quickly. "I was just checking to see if you still had that pearl set. I thought maybe I could wear it when my parents get here." Carla's voice stayed even. "You mean the ring that was in here yesterday?" Monica's smile tightened. "I assumed we shared since you always said it'll be passed down someday." "I changed my mind," Carla said. It's not staying in this house. She turned, calmly walked to her closet, and locked the jewelry box in her suitcase, already zipped and tagged. At the bank that same afternoon, Carla sat across from Derek Hodge once again. This time, she said, I want every trace of Monica removed. Cards, access, backup contact info, anything she could use. Derek glanced at the tablet. She's still listed as an emergency co-signer for low-limit expenses. Not anymore. He nodded. We'll scrub her completely. Do you want text alerts for every charge from now on? Carla looked him square in the eye. Yes, and I want them loud. That evening, Evan confronted her. Monica said you're changing all the bank stuff. What's going on, Mom? Carla stirred her tea. Her voice didn't rise. She already knew. That tells me she's been trying to use something. He scoffed. You're making everything dramatic. No, Carla said, placing the spoon down slowly. I'm making everything documented. You're making it dishonest. Evan's mouth opened, then closed. There were no retorts for facts. She stood. I won't fight in this house, Evan, but I also won't fade in it. He didn't stop her when she walked out. Back in her room, Carla zipped the final suitcase and folded a linen envelope on top, her last copy of the will. The new version was nearly ready. The scent of rosemary from Monica's diffuser seeped under the door. Carla ignored it. She reached for her iPad, refreshed her email. There it was, from Janine Crosswell, Esquire. Subject, Home Deed Revision, ready for signature. She tapped it open and smiled. The lawyer's pen glided across the paper like a violin bow, precise, deliberate, not one note wasted. Carla sat. At the end of Janine's conference table, reading glasses perched low on her nose, one hand resting atop the leather-bound binder that now held her rewritten life. Initial here. And here, Janine said calmly, tapping the corner of the final document. And then, sign this line. Carla took her time. The moment didn't feel like revenge. It felt like clarity. A long overdue correction to a narrative that had quietly pushed her out of her own legacy. With a slow exhale, she signed. Carla M. Thomas, sole owner and trustee. No co-signers, no disclaimers, no heirs by default. Outside the law office, the winter sun cut through the cold like a blade. Carla walked to her rental car with her coat buttoned to the neck, her heels clicking against the concrete in measured rhythm. In her purse, the newly filed deed, notarized and recorded. The house was hers again, not in sentiment, but in fact, in law, in ink. She pulled out her phone, scrolled to the travel app, and quietly canceled the vacation rental Monica had booked for spring break. A beachside cottage, under Carla's name, her credit card. We'll bring the wine, you just relax, Monica had said last month, smugly assuming the reservation wouldn't require permission. Now, with one tap, Monica's name vanished from the guest list. That evening, Monica stood in the center of the kitchen, her face blotchy and flushed. What do you mean it's canceled? She snapped, holding her phone up like it had personally betrayed her. I booked that trip for us. That was supposed to be our getaway. Evan already took off work. I know, Carla said evenly, spooning soup into a bowl without looking up. But I never approved the booking. I never even got an invitation. Monica's laugh was sharp. So this is punishment now? Carla placed the ladle down. You handed me garbage. I returned the favor. In paperwork. Evan hovered by the door, silent. Again. You've crossed a line, Monica hissed. This isn't how families operate. Carla finally turned to face her, eyes clear and cold. Neither is financial abuse. The words landed like a slap. Monica opened her mouth, then snapped it shut. She stormed out, muttering, Unbelievable! You're toxic! You're turning Evan against his own family! Carla returned to her soup. She didn't bother correcting her. The next morning, Janine called. Deeds official. You now have sole legal control of the home and its future. No one has a stake in it unless you grant them one. Thank you, Carla said. One more thing, Janine added. You want me to file that amendment to your will too? The financial abuse clause? Absolutely, Carla replied, already organizing her old paper statements into a labeled accordion folder. Spent trust, misused funds, fraud watch. That afternoon, Carla received a knock at the door. She opened it to find Monica on the porch, not alone. A man in a gray suit stood beside her, briefcase in hand, a smile stretched too tight across his face. "Mrs. Thomas?" he said. "I'm Scott Taylor, Monica's legal representation. We'd like to discuss Monica's rights to the property and her financial stake in the household. There seems to be some confusion." Carla didn't flinch. She simply opened a manila folder, slid it across the table, and folded her hands. He trailed off as he caught sight of the first sheet, a full transaction record from the joint account, highlighted in yellow, line after line of non-essential spending: designer handbags, a wine subscription service, spa visits, decorative lawn statues that never made it past the garage. Receipts followed, dates, shipping confirmations, and then, in a separate tab on Carla's iPad, screenshots, social media posts with captions like, "When your MIL doesn't know she paid for your Bali bag, you're winning. This brunch is brought to you by our family fund." Scott shifted in his seat. Janine, seated beside Carla with her own briefcase, spoke gently, but with ice beneath it. "Every transaction is linked to Monica's card usage. None are listed as authorized or reimbursed. My client has bank statements, notarized affidavit of ownership, and a trust that legally excludes any claim of co-ownership." Scott swallowed. This isn't what I was told," he said slowly, glancing at Monica. Monica didn't blink. "She's twisting things. That card was for family use." "For your personal branding?" Janine asked. "Because these charges aren't groceries, they're Gucci." Silence stretched. The lawyer turned the page, then another, then another. Finally, he shut the folder and stood. "I recommend we withdraw the claim," he said to Monica, his voice dry. She gawked. "Are you serious? She's literally punishing me, us, because she's old and bitter." Janine didn't flinch. "She's protecting her assets, legally and thoroughly." Monica's face twisted, then collapsed into a scream. "You're ruining everything." She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Evan remained. He looked down at the empty chair. Beside him, hands dangling uselessly in his lap. "She told me you were overreacting," he said quietly. "That you were just mad about the Christmas thing. I didn't know it went this far." Carla studied him. Her son, her boy, now a man too afraid to speak through his wife's volume. "You didn't ask," she replied softly. He winced. "She said the card was for family emergencies." Carla gestured to the folder. "Is a facial an emergency, Evan? A ring light? An herb garden subscription?" He closed his eyes. "I didn't want to believe she'd take advantage of you," he admitted. Carla's voice didn't tremble. "But you let her." She stood, gathering the folder, pressing it closed. "There's still time," she said, holding his gaze, "to fix what you allowed." He nodded once, just once, then left in silence. That night, Carla sat by the fireplace, soft music playing through the speaker. Her iPad blinked beside her, displaying a new document, her updated emergency contact form. She tapped in Holly's full name, emergency cell, legal authority in the event of hospitalization. Submit. Done. She exhaled. The crackle of the fire was her only company. Until her phone buzzed. "Bank alert. Declined transaction. $83.42. Lux Beauty Co. Flagged for fraud." Carla's eyes narrowed. It was Monica. Again. It wasn't the amount that bothered her. It was the audacity. She hadn't used that card in weeks. It was tucked away in her lockbox, untouched until now. She tapped the alert open and scrolled. The charge attempt had come from a mobile device, registered to Monica's Apple Pay. That was the final straw. By morning, Carla sat at her kitchen table, the scent of black coffee and dried lavender blending in the air. She wore a robe the color of garnet and an expression carved from iron. She called the bank, her voice calm and cool. "Yes, I'd like to report a fraudulent charge attempt. No, it wasn't authorized. Yes, I'd like that on record. with Monica Thomas listed as the user. A pause. Yes, I'm ready to press charges if necessary. She hung up, her hands steady. There were no nerves this time, just precision. Janine's office responded within the hour. We'll begin formal steps toward legal recourse, Janine said through the speakerphone. We've got bank records, the declined charge, and a documented history of unauthorized usage. Elder exploitation is a prosecutable offense. I want to move forward, Carla replied. Fully. She turned to Holly, who sat across from her, laptop open, typing furiously. You ready to archive everything? Carla asked. Already have folders named, Holly said, eyes locked on the screen. Bank abuse, asset manipulation, online defamation. We're building a clean case file. Monica had always called Carla quiet, invisible. Now she'd be traceable. By the end of the week, word got around. Not from Carla, but from Monica's own crumbling echo chamber. Her influencer brand, Modern Matriarch, which sold throw pillows and passive-aggressive mugs to upper-middle-class suburbanites, had vanished from Instagram. The account still existed, but the sponsor links were gone. The last post had one haunting comment pinned at the top. Didn't you get dropped for scamming your MIL? Monica never responded. Carla, meanwhile, was folding linen slacks into a small suitcase. She didn't slam drawers or pack in fury. She packed the way her mother once stitched quilts, threaded with history, bordered with care. Her ticket to Charleston had been booked 3 days earlier. A boutique inn near the waterfront, no guests, no noise, just space to breathe. A little house with a porch and a sea breeze. As she folded her sun hat into the corner of the suitcase, Holly stepped into the room holding an envelope. Aunt C? You got this in the mail. Carla opened it, her eyes scanning the handwriting. A cousin, one who hadn't reached out in years, heard what's happening, just wanted to say, good for you. About time someone in this family made noise without breaking things. Carla smiled softly. Sometimes, silence cracked louder than screams. The day before her flight, she walked into the post office and mailed copies of her financial affidavit to her safety deposit box. She no longer trusted memory alone. She trusted documentation. Outside, the air smelled like oncoming rain, earthy and sharp. Her phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Monica. It was a number she didn't recognize. Hello? A woman's voice, warm, curious. Hi, is this Carla Thomas? It is. I'm Emily Keller. I write for the Richmond Gazette. We've had several community tips about a situation you've handled involving financial protection and elder rights. I'd love to talk. You're something of a quiet legend at the courthouse. Carla looked across the parking lot at a mother dragging her toddler by the wrist. She remembered doing the same. Tired, broke, but always fair. Is this for a story? Carla asked. Yes, possibly a feature. A lot of women are asking to know how you did. Carla didn't speak right away. She just closed her eyes for a moment. And when she opened them, she smiled. The jet bridge was quiet in the early morning, the hum of suitcase wheels echoing like applause. Carla clutched her carry-on with one hand, the other wrapped around the strap of her purse. Inside it, her passport, her journal, and a plane ticket she didn't ask anyone's opinion about. Gate 12, Charleston. On time. She moved at her own pace, declining assistance, brushing off worried glances from younger travelers. Her steps weren't quick, but they were sure. For the first time in weeks, maybe years, Carla smiled. At 32,000 feet, she opened her leather-bound travel journal and began to write. Her handwriting was neat, unapologetic. They tried to decide how much I was worth. I didn't let them. My name is not a footnote. My finances are not a favor. My worth was never up for debate. She underlined that last line twice, capped her pen, and tucked the journal into the seat-back pocket like a passenger manifest signed in defiance. The flight attendant offered her tea. Carla asked for champagne. The Charleston air met her like an old friend, humid, floral, alive. Her rideshare driver was a talker, but Carla didn't mind. The city rolled by in painted porches, iron gates, and blooming camellias. When she arrived at the small inn tucked behind moss-draped oaks, she didn't unpack immediately. Instead, she sat on the wraparound porch and exhaled. The next morning, she walked along the Battery with her cane in one hand and a cup of café au lait in the other. Her scarf danced in the breeze like ribbon off a victory bouquet. "Carla?" a voice called behind her. She turned, heart skipping, not from fear, but nostalgia. There, standing by the wrought iron fence of a bed and breakfast, was Elaine Madison, an old friend from her community board days, now silver-haired and sun-kissed. "My God, you look lighter," Elaine said, blinking. "I feel it," Carla replied, her voice warm. "About 40 years' worth." They had brunch at a corner cafe. Real grits, fresh citrus, gossip poured over like syrup. When Carla mentioned her updated living will, travel permissions, end-of-life preferences, digital asset control, Elaine raised her glass. "Not enough women our age plan for freedom," she said. "Only for fading." Carla toasted to that. Meanwhile, Monica posted a photo from her driveway in yoga pants and full makeup. "Tired of being robbed by elders who rewrite history. But karma sees everything. Family doesn't mean forever." Holly sent the screenshot to Carla with a caption that just read, "You want me to respond, or should I just drop receipts?" Carla, mid-mimosa on a rooftop patio, laughed so hard she had to dab her eyes with a napkin. "Let her post," she texted back. "Let her talk. I'm done whispering." She turned off her phone for the rest of the day and walked the Charleston market in peace. Back home, the sky was gray and the air brittle. Evan stood on the front porch of Carla's house with a key in his hand and a frown on his face. The key didn't work. Evan jiggled the handle a second time, then a third, the cold brass knob slipping beneath his palm like it had betrayed him, a new deadbolt, unannounced. His heart thudded once in confusion, then twice in slow, growing panic. Behind him, Monica paced on the porch like a caged animal. "She changed the locks," she hissed. "You said she wouldn't actually leave. You said she was bluffing." "I didn't know," Evan muttered, staring at the door as if it might explain itself. "She didn't tell me anything." "No," Monica snapped. "She never does. She just plays the victim, then vanishes and ruins everything like she always does." The December wind whipped through the porch columns, rattling a stray pine wreath that had been left behind. No twinkling lights, no holiday warmth, just silence, and a note taped to the storm door in perfectly neat script. "This home is no longer accepting uninvited guests. Forward all legal communication to my attorney. CMT." The door opened from inside, but not by Carla. Holly stood in the threshold, blazer buttoned, hair pulled back, a legal folder in her hand, and absolutely no room for negotiation in her tone. "Hello, Evan." "Monica." Monica's face twisted. "You don't live here." "No," Holly said calmly. "But my aunt does, and I'm here on her legal authority." She reached into the folder and handed Evan an envelope. "This is a formal no trespass notice. You are not welcome on this property without written consent." "You've got to be kidding me," Monica scoffed. "This is over Christmas? Because I made a joke? Are you serious?" Holly didn't blink. "You made a statement," Carla simply responded in kind, through channels that hold up in court. Evan stared at the document in his hand, his shoulders sinking. "She left?" he asked, voice barely audible. "She really left." "She didn't leave," Holly corrected. "She repositioned." That night, Carla sat in a rocking chair on her Charleston porch, the hush of the marshes stretching out behind her. She was sipping warm cider, a cinnamon stick swaying inside the mug like a slow metronome of peace. Her phone lit up. Voicemail. One new message. Evan's voice crackled through the speaker, low and tired. "Mom, we're staying at a motel. She's crying every hour. I don't know what's going on. I don't understand why you'd do this to us. I didn't mean to let it get this far. I didn't know what to do." Silence followed. Then, faintly, "Please call me." Carla stared out at the skyline, then picked up her phone. She didn't call. She typed, "You let her make me small. I made myself sovereign." She hit send. Then she changed her voicemail greeting. "Hello, this is Carla. I am no longer accepting apologies, only growth. Leave a message if you have either." She set the phone face down and didn't look back. 2 days later, Janine's office received a thick manila envelope. Inside, a formal contest of Carla's updated estate documents. Filed by Evan Thomas Basis, emotional duress and lack of mental clarity. The receptionist frowned as she placed the envelope on Janine's desk. Janine opened it, flipped through the pages with practiced hands. When she reached the last page, she gave a small, humorless laugh. "Well," she said aloud to the empty office, "he really doesn't know who he's dealing with." She pulled Carla's file from the cabinet, thick now with timestamps, affidavits, bank logs, and recorded evidence. She grabbed a pen and started the response. The courtroom was cold, not in temperature but in temperament, the kind of sterile that tried to flatten emotion into procedure. Carla sat at the plaintiff's table in a navy wool coat, her hands folded neatly atop her lap. Her pearl earrings, the ones worn at her husband's memorial, glinted softly under the harsh lights. Across from her, Evan looked older than she remembered, haunted, pale, tugging at the cuffs of his shirt like they itched. Monica sat one row behind him, oversized sunglasses hiding what Carla suspected were bags, not tears. The judge entered. All rose. Carla didn't look at her son. Not once. "Ms. Thomas is of sound mind and legal capacity," Janine said clearly, sliding documents across the table. "These are evaluations conducted over the past year, signed neuropsych reports, updated trust paperwork, a timeline of financial transactions that show calculated, independent decision-making, down to the hour." She paused. "And here," Janine added, tapping her tablet, "is a recorded video from 2 weeks ago, time-stamped and notarized, where my client articulates her estate plans in full clarity." The screen lit up behind her. Carla's own face appeared, firm, calm, confident. "I am not being coerced," her on-screen self said. "I have reviewed every line of this trust. I've seen what happens when silence is mistaken for senility. This is not about revenge. This is about restoration." The judge, an older woman with weathered eyes and zero tolerance for theatrics, leaned forward. "Mr. Thomas, do you have any counter-evidence suggesting your mother is mentally incapacitated?" Evan cleared his throat. She disappeared. She left the house. She changed everything without telling me." "That's not a diagnosis," the judge said. "That's a boundary." A smattering of murmurs rippled through the gallery. When the gavel fell, it wasn't loud, but it was final. The court finds no evidence of mental incapacity or undue influence. The contestation is denied with prejudice. All documents remain legally binding. Case closed. Carla didn't smile. She didn't flinch. She simply stood, nodded to Janine, and walked out. Outside the courthouse, the December sun split through thin gray clouds. Evan followed her onto the steps. "Mom, wait." She turned, slow and quiet. "I didn't know it would go this far," he said. "I just thought, Monica said you were slipping, that you were cutting us off to prove a point." Carla studied him for a long moment, then reached into her coat pocket. She pulled out a single sheet of paper, a photocopy of her husband's handwriting from the letter she'd recently rediscovered. "Protect your peace, even from blood." She handed it to him and walked away. By the end of the week, a video had gone viral. Not one Carla posted, but one Monica had no idea was recording. Monica stood in the middle of a downtown cafe, screaming into her phone. "She's a liar! A manipulative old witch! She ruined Christmas, ruined our life, and now everyone's cheering her on like she's a damn hero!" Customers stared. A barista behind the counter glanced at the camera, shrugged, and said, "You still want that oat milk latte, or—" That clip racked up 50,000 views by morning. Monica's influencer brand quietly deactivated. Meanwhile, Carla sat in a folding chair at a small community women's center, a microphone in her hand, and a room full of strangers listening like every word was gospel. "I wasn't angry," she told them. "I was awake. There's a difference." A ripple of snaps and nods filled the room. "I used to think that staying silent meant staying kind," she continued. "Now I know that silence only serves those who benefit from your erasure." The applause came slowly at first, then built into something thunderous. Afterward, a woman approached her. "I thought I was the only one," she whispered. "My daughter keeps telling me I'm lucky she takes care of everything. She's taken over my accounts." "You're not alone," Carla said gently, slipping a business card into her hand. "But you do deserve better." That night, back in Charleston, Carla returned to the cottage. A small box sat on the porch. No postmark, no return address. Inside, a letter. Folded once. The handwriting was unmistakable. Her late husband's. The envelope was yellowed, but the edges were crisp, protected by time and intention. Carla sat alone on the sun-bleached porch of her Charleston rental, the coastal breeze feathering against her face as she opened the flap with delicate fingers. Inside was a letter written in her late husband's hand. The familiar loops and angles of his penmanship brought a swell to her throat. For a moment, the world hushed, just her and the words he'd left behind. "If you're reading this, it means the silence has broken." Good. Let it stay broken. They may smile through their uses, but they will show you their hunger in time. Protect your peace, even from blood. Carla pressed her palm to the page, holding it like a lifeline. She closed her eyes, remembering his voice in the still moments of early morning. Always wise, always one step ahead. Halfway down the page, her breath caught. Tucked beneath the note was a second sheet, one she'd never known existed. Addendum to Will. Dated October 11th, 2 years before his death. He had drawn up a legal instruction to automatically restrict co-ownership rights to any heirs unless Carla authorized it in writing. A safeguard. An inheritance blocker. Filed, signed, and quietly notarized. She hadn't even remembered this existed. But he had. He knew. By early afternoon, she was back in Janine's office. The papers were scanned, logged, and archived like gold. "Your husband was thorough," Janine said, impressed. "This changes everything. Evan can't challenge a thing, not without overturning a signed directive from beyond the grave." Carla smiled faintly. "He always said I'd be left to clean the glass after the storm." Later, Carla sat across from Holly at a small diner, the letter tucked safely in her purse. Holly reached over and gently squeezed her hand. "You didn't just survive them," she said. "You outgrew them." Carla looked out the window. A young waitress handed an elderly man his coffee with a smile. Across the room, a woman juggled her toddler and her checkbook at the same time. "I want to do more," Carla said softly. "For women like me, who didn't see it coming until it had already happened." "Then let's make that happen." 3 days later, Carla submitted her application to become a volunteer financial advocate for seniors. She uploaded the necessary forms, added her trust work and affidavit experience, and signed the last page with a certainty she hadn't felt in years. "Retired widow, yes," she muttered, "but not done yet." That evening, she visited a small boutique near the Charleston Historic District. Behind the counter sat a display of gold rings, simple, elegant, understated. "I'm looking for something," she said to the young woman helping her, "that doesn't say married or taken." The clerk tilted her head. "What should it say then?" Carla smiled. "Claimed by me." She chose a slim gold band with a single onyx stone and slid it onto her right ring finger. It gleamed in the shop's warm light, bold and final. That night, as she was folding laundry in the quiet of the rental, her phone buzzed on the windowsill. Unknown number. No profile picture. No name. Her stomach sank. She tapped it open. "Monica. One last chance to fix this, Carla. Think hard. You'll regret walking away from family." Carla stared at the message, unreadable. The wind outside picked up, rattling the shutters, but she didn't feel rattled. Not anymore. She simply exhaled, calm and unshaken, because the answer was already written. A slow, familiar chill crept through her ribs. Not fear, not guilt, recognition. She recognized the pattern now, the velvet-wrapped threats, the sentimental baiting, the word family wielded like a leash. She took a screenshot, saved it to a folder titled Undignified Attempts. Then, with one tap, she blocked the number. By morning, her phone was quiet, peacefully so. Carla brewed a fresh pot of French roast, the scent curling through the rental like a morning hymn. She carried her mug to the dining table, set down her laptop, and pulled up every social account she had. Privacy settings? Maximum. Friend lists? Pruned. Tagging. Permissions? Locked. She paused at one final field, legacy contact, and updated it. Name, Holly Matthews. Relationship, niece, advocate, confidant. When she hit save, the screen shimmered slightly as if acknowledging the finality. An hour later, the doorbell rang. On the porch sat a cardboard box, medium-sized, no return address. Carla opened it with a paring knife, careful, calm. Inside, a scatter of family photos, loose and unframed. Her wedding, Evan's kindergarten graduation, a blurry Christmas from 2004. At the bottom, wrapped in tissue, was the gift from last December, the trash bag. Folded neatly. There was no note. But there was a message. A pathetic, passive-aggressive one. Carla didn't flinch. She taped the box shut, slid in a new note of her own, and mailed it back to the Thomas residence. The message was brief. Return to sender. Respect not included. That evening, she opened a fresh Word document. She named the file, Trash Bag Gifts, How I Reclaimed the Holidays and My Inheritance. The cursor blinked once, like a dare. She accepted. The insult was loud, but my silence was louder. She handed me garbage. I handed her consequences. Her fingers danced across the keyboard. The pages came quickly, more memory than manuscript. By midnight she had 10 solid chapters. By morning she had a title page, a query letter, and a legal email ready. Janine called after lunch. "You're serious about publishing?" "Serious enough to make it sting," Carla replied. "I read the first 3 chapters," Janine said, her tone shifting from professional to impressed. "It's not just revenge, it's a roadmap." Carla smiled into her tea. "That's the point. Women like me don't get to scream. We have to document. I'll handle rights, contracts, and whatever trouble they try to stir." I expected no less. 3 days later, Holly uploaded an excerpt of the manuscript, just the prologue and opening lines, to a quiet women's advocacy forum. The post title, "When They Give You Trash, Write a Receipt." It hit 15,000 shares in the first 24 hours. Hundreds of comments poured in. My son's wife called me the bank with wrinkles. I needed this. I cried reading this. I lived this. Where do I buy the book? Carla didn't respond to the flood. She didn't have to. She leaned back in her chair, closed her eyes, and let the sound of the sea hum through the cracked window. Some storms you don't need to fight. You just need to outlast. The headline sat at the top of the local newspaper's Sunday edition like a dare wrapped in truth. The grandma who froze the account, one woman's fight for dignity and financial freedom. Beneath it, a color photo showed Carla seated on a sunlit bench outside a Charleston cafe, her gold onyx ring glinting on her finger, her posture upright but at ease. The article captured her journey with sharp, respectful clarity, from the Christmas trash bag to the courtroom dismissal to the now viral excerpt from Trash Bag Gifts. She hadn't expected it to hit like wildfire, but it did. Within 48 hours, her inbox overflowed. The subject lines varied. "Thank you for speaking the words I couldn't." "My daughter controls my debit card. Can you help me?" "Your courage gave me permission." Carla read every single one. She didn't rush. She let each woman's pain sit beside hers, not to burden her, but to bind them. On Tuesday morning, her phone rang, a Manhattan number. "This is Amanda Leeds, senior editor at Morningside Publishing. We saw the forum post, read the excerpt, and frankly, your voice is extraordinary, raw, composed, and unflinching. Are you interested in expanding it into a full memoir? We'd like to talk terms." Carla smiled slowly, fingers tightening around the mug of coffee she hadn't touched since the call began. "I'm not interested in telling a sad story," she said. "I'm interested in telling a useful one." "That," Amanda replied, is exactly why we're calling. That afternoon, the backlash began, but not for Carla. Monica tried to post her version of events on Instagram, a heavily filtered video claiming Carla was emotionally unstable, that she sabotaged the family to feel powerful. She ended the video teary-eyed, holding the same trash bag from Christmas as if it were evidence of humor misunderstood, but the comments didn't go her way. You mocked a widow on Christmas, then spent her money? Tell us again how you're the victim, with receipts this time. Garbage gift, garbage story. Monica turned off comments within the hour. The post disappeared shortly after. Saturday brought sunshine and healing. Carla, now affectionately referred to as Ms. C by the women at the local center, hosted her first freedom brunch. No paper plates, no passive aggression, just silverware, linen napkins, and meals made with intention. Plates of buttermilk biscuits, smoked salmon quiche, and mimosas flowed across long tables. Laughter, real and round, filled the room like a hymn of reclamation. She gave a toast, glass raised, her voice steady. To every woman who's been told she's too much while being used for just enough, this table is ours now. Applause rang out. Someone wept softly. Someone else reached for her hand. That night they raised $12,000 for the state's Elder Financial Rights Project. Later, curled up in her reading chair with Holly nearby highlighting notes in the manuscript, Carla received one final call. Amanda again. "It's official," she said, practically breathless. "We're launching the book as our holiday feature. Title Trash Bag Gifts, A Widow's Guide to Quiet Revenge and Loud Recovery." "Release date?" Carla asked. Amanda chuckled. "December 25th. Of course." Carla leaned back, letting the moment soak into her bones. "Fitting," she said. "I'm finally giving myself the gift I never asked for." The next morning, Holly updated the author website. Homepage banner, coming, December 25th, the memoir that froze the account. A countdown ticked underneath, red and gold digits melting away the days. Carla stood behind her niece, hands folded, heart full. In one hand, she held the gold bracelet the Women's Center gifted her, inscribed, "Never Again." And in the other, her late husband's final note, laminated, preserved. Because what began with humiliation had transformed into a national wake-up call. And it wasn't done yet. The morning sun filtered through gauzy curtains as Carla sipped her coffee in the quiet of her cottage living room. The air smelled of pine and cinnamon, her own nod to winter without the weight of false family warmth. She reached for her tablet and tapped the publishing app, heart calm but pulse expectant. Number 7 on the national bestseller list, Trash Bag Gifts, A Widow's Guide to Quiet Revenge and Loud Recovery. In 72 hours. She didn't smile wide, she didn't gasp. She simply closed her eyes, breathed deep, and let the validation settle in her bones like a long overdue inheritance. Holly burst through the front door 15 minutes later, waving a copy of the print edition like a trophy. "Page 6, she said, tears already shining in her eyes. Carla adjusted her glasses, flipped to the dedication, and watched her niece read it aloud in a voice cracking with emotion. "To those who handed me garbage, thank you. I recycled it into strength. To those who tried to silence me, I published instead. This is not a story of revenge, it's a ledger of boundaries, written in bold." Holly's voice faltered. Carla reached out and squeezed her hand. "You didn't just help me," she whispered. "You stood in the fire with me." "You never needed saving," Holly replied. "Just a match and a legal team." That afternoon, her inbox pinged with a single new email from evan.thomas@gmail.com. Subject, "I'm sorry. Too late?" Carla stared at the screen. The words were short, no punctuation, no elaboration, just a digital pebble tossed at a closed window. She clicked the folder labeled Unopened Apologies, dragged the message in, and didn't look back. Instead, she opened a new one. From National Association of Elder Advocacy Subject, Keynote Invitation for Spring Conference. Carla, your memoir has sparked critical national dialogue. We would be honored to have you headline our spring conference as keynote speaker. Your story represents strength, strategy, and survival. We'll cover all travel and lodging. Carla reread the email twice. Then she stood and walked slowly to the fireplace mantel, where her late husband's photo rested beside the fireproof framed deed and the bracelet inscribed, "Never again." "I told you I'd stop being polite when it turned to survival," she murmured to the photo. Then she hit reply. "I accept." With gratitude, within days, the royalties began arriving. Amanda from Morningside Publishing called to confirm the first quarter earnings. "Strongest debut memoir we've had in 6 years," she said. "We've already tripled our print run." Carla didn't ask for the amount. She only asked for the transfer, 40% directly deposited into a new fund she and Holly had created, the Rewrite Fund for women 55 and older re-entering the workforce or reclaiming their financial lives, scholarships, rent grants, legal consultation stipends, not bandages, tools. That Friday, Carla visited the local bookstore where stacks of her books sat under a handwritten sign, "Local Legend, Carla Thomas." A woman in her early 60s approached hesitantly. "Is this you?" she asked, holding up the cover with trembling hands. Carla nodded. "It's us." That night, the cottage was wrapped in silence, broken only by the creak of her rocking chair and the rhythmic click of her silver pen against her palm. Her phone buzzed once more. This time it wasn't Monica, not Evan, just a notification, 100,000 copies sold, international interest. She set the phone down. Then, with one fluid motion, she powered it off. The screen went dark. Her shoulders dropped. And for the first time in a long, long time, peace didn't feel like a pause. It felt like a place she had arrived in. Snow dusted the windowsills in soft silence, a clean white contrast to the noise of the year behind her. Inside Carla's warm living room, light flickered off wine glasses, silver cutlery, and linen napkins the color of cranberry. The table wasn't crowded, but it was full, of presence, of healing, of women who had walked through storms of silence and emerged with names, not roles. No one brought a trash bag. No one served judgment with dessert. Here, the only currency was honesty. "Let's raise a glass," Carla said, standing slowly, cane in hand but posture tall. The room quieted. A dozen women, all over 60, some widowed, some estranged from children, some just learning how to say no, turned toward her. To the women who thought they had to shrink to survive, who were handed guilt instead of gratitude, whose love was weaponized against them. She looked at each face. Let the truth hold. And to the moment we finally decided to sign our own damn names to the rest of our lives. Laughter mixed with clinks of glass. One woman wiped her eyes. Another whispered, "Amen." After the meal, rosemary chicken, roasted carrots, buttered yeast rolls, and homemade pear tart, Carla moved to the fireplace, where the tree stood, small but dignified, adorned with ornaments from her life. Her first wedding Christmas, her son's birth year, the gold one her husband gave her their last year together. Holly approached quietly and set a small, square box in Carla's hands, wrapped in silver paper, topped with a crimson ribbon. "No tag," Holly said. "You'll know who it's from." Carla untied the ribbon and peeled back the paper. Inside, nestled in dark velvet, was a bracelet, simple, elegant, gold, engraved in tiny, steady script, "Never again." Her throat tightened, but she didn't cry. She slipped it onto her wrist with steady hands, where it caught the firelight like a declaration. "I love it," she whispered. A woman beside her said, "You earned it." After brunch, they moved to the sunroom. Carla brewed spiced tea and poured mulled wine. They passed around copies of Trash Bag Gifts, now in its third print run. One woman asked about the scene at the bank, another about the trash bag itself. Carla answered with a half smile. "It wasn't about the bag, it was about how easily they thought I'd accept it." A third woman said, "I got a mop for my birthday, from my son's wife." The room sighed, nodded, but no one offered pity, just recognition. And then, release. As the sun began to dip low, Carla stood at the front door and hugged each woman goodbye. Some lingered, some cried. One placed a hand on Carla's heart and said, "You didn't just break the cycle, you rewrote it." After the last guest left, Carla returned to the fireplace. The embers glowed, steady and strong. She looked down at the bracelet, then reached up and straightened the framed deed on the wall. The house was hers, her story was hers, and not a single signature beside hers gave it value. Carla stepped outside. The wind was crisp, but not cruel. Her cane tapped gently on the marble porch as she made her way to the garden path. The moon had not yet risen, but the sky held a golden hue, soft, forgiving. She paused at the edge of the walkway, turned to look at the home she had reclaimed not just in law, but in spirit. No more silence, no more stolen rooms or closed doors in her own life. That Christmas, she hadn't lost family, she'd found freedom,